Hey, Kowalski here, and welcome back to another video. Now, as the Candidates tournament is happening soon, a 14 round robin tournament played in Spain, and the winner is gonna play Magnus Carlsen, and we have a lot of interesting players in the field. Now, with this video, I want to show you how everybody qualified for this, and I'm gonna show you some games, and I'm gonna talk you through how everybody qualified for the Candidates tournament. Now, the first player to qualify is Jan Nepomniachtchi, and he qualified by winning the other candidates and playing a game against Magnus. Now, we all know that the loser from the World Chess Championship match gets to play in the candidates automatically. So I'm gonna show you a very nice game that Jan played against Ding Liren in the candidates, and here he let's see the game. So here Jan won the candidates right in 2021, and that's how he basically qualified for this candidates. And the funny thing is about this line, Magnus actually won a game against Ding in this exact line with these moves. Now, after a5, here Jan plays a novelty. He plays rook b2. That was obviously home prep. And here Magnus played c4 in his game, and he beat Ding in the end. So now we have this position, and Ding goes back with the bishop. He doesn't want to allow knight takes. And now we have c4. So now we have knight d4 and the trade, and a very interesting decision by Ding to double his own pawns. But now after g3 we have a trade, and now c6. So kicking the knight out, and now bishop g5, threatening a knight capture. And after that, to open up the king, you don't want to allow that. Knight e2. We have d5 now, and Ding opts for this structure with the doubled pawns, and it's very interesting. You cannot take the pawn because you lose to this move, right? So you play queen b3. We have h5, and now b6, b5, and now h4, and here Ding decided to put his pawn on h3 and go for an approach where he's gonna try to create some checkmate threats, but white is completely safe. We have king h1, and now maybe a knight reroute, maybe a pawn push. We're gonna see. Rook e to b8, and now Jan gets the triple stack, and we all know that the triple stack is very OP. Now we have queen b5 looking for a trade, and if you trade queens here, I mean, you're really in a worse position, as now you're just either losing this pawn or this pawn, and you're gonna lose a lot of your pawns, and or this pawn, and it's just a very bad endgame. That's why Ding decides to play queen g4, but this completely blunders the game. Here Ding should have played queen f5, and here the line goes knight d5, and only after this move you go queen g4, and after a check white is forced to give up his knight, but in return he gets like 3 pawns, and this is a very complex position, and I think that Ding might have misevaluated something here after like queen d7 check, king h6, rook b4, but in the end white cannot check because of the black bishop. I don't know what Ding missed in this line, but here he played queen g4 right away, and this move loses because now Jan just picks up 1 pawn, and it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you play rook c5, just be careful not to take it. This is made in 2, but Jan saw that. He just played queen e8 check, and here after king h7 we have knight g1, rook takes on b6, and just white's up a whole piece, and here you had to take the pawn, or else you cannot really do anything else. Like you can play f6, but now just b7, and you're gonna pick up the bishop, and then you're gonna make another queen. So we have knight g1, rook takes on b6, and white is simply up a piece. And now with trading queens, black played a couple of moves, but after f3 black resigned, because once you lose this pawn, it's all over. So you're gonna lose your pawn, and you're gonna be just down a piece in an endgame. Jan is gonna convert that, and Ding knew it, so he resigned. Okay, So coming back to the list, the next candidate is Timur Rajabov, and he qualified by winning the 2019 World Cup. And you're gonna say, wait, 2019? That's a little bit. Didn't Duda win the 2020 World Cup, and he qualified, I think, the 2021. I don't remember, but. The 2021 World Cup. Yeah, no, sorry about that. But actually, Rajabov refused to play in the last candidate because of the pandemic situation in the world. And that's why he received this spot, because he didn't play in the candidates that he qualified for. So he got the wild card spot. And I'm going to show you the game from the World Cup now that he played against also Ding Liren, and you can see the ratings there. And now it's a very interesting. I'm gonna walk you through the format a little bit. Now in the World Cup, it's actually an elimination format. It's the only elimination format in chess, and Ding and Rajabov, they made it to the finals, and in the finals you play 2 classical games. And then if those games are both draws or 1 win each, if the score is tied after 2 games, you play 2 rapid games, and then you play those are 25-minute games, and then you play 2 10-minute games, and then you play 2 blitz games. So this is from the 5+3 section, and what's very important about this game is that Rajabov actually won his game with the black pieces, but this is a very crucial moment. Here Rajabov has to have nerves of steel, and Ding really challenges him to a very, very provocative Sicilian. So Rajabov just has to make a draw, and he's gonna be World Cup champion. And we have Queen d3, Rook a d8. So we have this position out of the opening, and we can really see that it's very unbalanced. The black position has a very massive center here, but it's kind of clunky. And white just has a very clean pawn structure, and the pieces are maybe not ideally placed, but also Black's pieces are also not in the best arrangement. So we have some improving moves from both sides, and now Ding begins launching an attack. Keep in mind, Ding has to win this game. d5, Queen c3, Rook f6. Just solid defense by Rajabov. And now c3. So this is the biggest advantage that Ding got here. And here Ding should have continued with the move like Queen c7, keeping everything together, this pawn, and preparing some other ideas here. For example, after e takes d5, you can go e takes d5, and now you have a very massive center. And let's see, white plays something like f3 to stop any advancement. Now you can go back, or you can even kick the queen out. But again, this is a blitz game, and so Ding decided to go forward with his attack in another way, and he missed his chance. But Rajabov gives it right back, and again now Queen c7 with the support on the center. Now Ding again makes a mistake by going Rook d7. He wanted maybe to go Rook c7, but actually he's gonna go Rook e7, which again, it's not the best move, but it's blitz. What are you gonna do? We have Knight c5, and now this pawn is gonna be under a lot of pressure, and the center is also kind of weak. So we have King h7, but this now allows white to play b4, and you really see the queenside expansion. Now if Rajabov gets a passed pawn, that's gonna be very, very big. We have d4, trying to break in the center, but just knight back to d3. And now you're attacking this pawn if the knight moves. So we have Rook d7, but now simply just Queen c5, attacking the pawn one more time, dc3, and Queen c3. So you're still attacking the pawn. We have Bishop h6, and here you could pick up the pawn, but this would be losing just to Rook takes f2. And now you cannot take the rook because you lose the other rook, and you have to make a move. I mean, if you try to defend, this is actually gonna be forced checkmate after bishop e3, and you can go king h2, and here you're gonna lose your rook. So therefore no, Rajabov didn't take the pawn. He saw that, he plays a4. Now the knight is defending the pawn, and everything is solid. Ding tries to drop his knight in, but it doesn't work like that. Simply queen c4. Rajabov slides out of trouble, and now we have knight e5, rook c7, and he takes the pawn. Now Rajabov is a pawn up, and Ding's position is looking worse and worse. And so, it's only a matter of a few more moves, few more improving moves, and Ding's chances are truly out the window. How are you gonna break through in this position? You cannot remove the knight. The knight's guarding this pawn. b6, attacking the rook, and now queen e4, pinning the rook, right? You could capture the pawn, but this would allow a very nice tactic here with rook d7, right? You cannot take because this is check and the rook is pinned, and here that's actually what happened in the game. Just rook b6, rook d7, and here Ding tried to play on a little bit more because he has to win the game, but he resigned after knight takes c6 because there's nothing more to it doesn't make sense, right? There's nothing more to play for. Simply, right, like you're gonna move the king, you're gonna take the pawn, and here you have a rook for a queen, and you just cannot play against one of the world's best down a queen. So that's how Rajabov qualified. Now Duda qualified by winning the 2021 World Cup, and he did that by beating Sergei Karyakin, that would have qualified, but he was disqualified because of some political reasons, to put it like that. So this is the final game from the 2021 World Cup, and what's surprising about this game is that this line has been very popular in the past year, and Duda actually both Duda and Karyakin actually played some variations in these lines here, bishop e6 and bishop b5, although here Duda went for something that's not the best move. Here bishop b5 is not the best move, but bishop d3 is the best continuation. But again, Karyakin played against this move in the World Cup, and so Duda decides to mix it up, and here we have some trades, and White manages to pick up a pawn, but only for a second, as now Black gets the b2 pawn. So we have the following position. We have a middle game with opposite color bishops and a very unbalanced position. So here Duda declines the queen trade because this would attack the rook and the bishop at the same time, and the rook cannot guard the bishop. So here he goes queen b3, and Karyakin really wants a queen trade. So you have a6, or sorry, not a6. We have knight b8, g4, and h6. We have h4. Now Duda is marching forward on the king side, and we have g6 now, and now we have g5, and we have an advancement. And as you can see, Duda is making a lot of forward progress. You can look at this knight and at this bishop. They're not really playing in the game. So we have rook e5 now attacking the bishop, and knight c6 defending and attacking at the same time. But now simply rook d7, and you cannot really pick up the rook because you're gonna lose your knight. And you don't even want to pick up the bishop now because here, right, Black is okay, but you want to pick up the knight, and if bishop takes g5, simply knight takes g6, and here the best move is actually king g7, and after you take the rook, now rook takes b7, and although this is opposite color bishops endgame, White is much better because White is going to be soon 2 pawns up. So therefore, after rook d7, we have bishop back to d8, but now you can see just how passive Black is. We have rook b5, knight a5, and now simply bishop d5. A very classy move, just attacking the pawn one more time. And here, if you decide to, like, let's say play something like b6, this would be losing because simply, White's pieces are just coming to the party, and the king is kind of undefended. So we have bishop d5, rook c7, bishop takes on f7, and after the king moves, rook takes, and Duda slides the bishop back, and Karyakin resigns. But Karyakin really didn't need to win, he was qualified anyways. But again, a very nice win by Duda to win the World Cup, and he actually beat Magnus in this event previously in the semifinals, and you know, he took the crown and he took a spot in the candidates. Now we have the players that qualified from the FIDE Grand Swiss tournament, and those players are Alireza Firouzja and Fabiano Caruana. Firouzja obviously won, Caruana came in second, and they both got a spot. Now I'm going to show you a nice Firouzja game. This game was played against Abasov, and I actually have the book. I cannot see it right now, but I had the book from the video with how I prepare for chess. So we're gonna the game is from that book, so we're gonna have a look at it, and we have a very nice line here, very provocative, very gambit-ish line. We have d4 knight e4, and here you go d takes c5. So this is almost like a Russian like Petrov, but very weird in a way. So but this has been played at the top level, this has been all played, and you know, knight e7, and here bishop f4. There has only been one other game played against some Chinese grandmasters, between Chinese grandmasters, I meant to say, and that game ended in a draw. But this is officially the first new move. The other game continued with castles. Now we have knight c5, and we have long castles, so we have a completely new game. We have c6, and now just simply bishop c4, and as you can see, white has a very nice position. The pieces are lined up, the pawn is you know, very advanced, and the bishop e7. Now the rook comes to the party, and we have a5, h3, and now h5, stopping any g4s ideas. a3, bishop d7, and king b1, some prophylactic moves, making space for the king. b5 now played by black. We have bishop a2, and now castles. g4, very interesting decision by Alireza to give up a pawn here to open up the lines. But here the best move is actually knight takes on c6, and you don't really want to take the rook because this is simply mate. So this is mate. You cannot go anywhere, and this is mate. So a very interesting decision by Alireza. Here after knight takes, black went to rook f to e8, and now rook d5. So you're threatening to capture and then capture the knight, and now rook a to c8. Now this idea doesn't work because when the knight moves, the rook will be defending the knight. So you have knight a7 attacking the rook, rook goes back, and now Alireza simply picks up a pawn, threatens the fork. We have rook e to b8 back, and now we have knight c7. We have rook a7, and now a very nice move by Alireza, just e6. And you can pick up this pawn, but now just knight takes, and you can do that, but you're gonna lose this rook, and then when you're gonna pick up this rook, you're gonna lose this rook with check. And although like momentarily you're down a rook, like there's nothing momentarily, you're just down a rook. I want to say momentarily you're loose, but you're just down a rook. So after e6, you cannot pick up with the bishop because now just knight takes and the rook is hanging. So right, we have rook b7, trying to get some threats here against the king, but now e takes on f7 simply, and after e ending, and you don't want to pick up this pawn. Now there are all sorts of discovered checks, and here the best move is even just bishop e5, just defending. So you have e takes on f7, king f8, and bishop e5, just defending, as I said. Knight back to d7, but now simply rook takes, and after bishop takes, rook h1, and black resigns. As right, it doesn't make sense to continue. Let's say you take here, right? You make some room, but now simply knight d5 check, and after you force your opponent to go in the line of fire here, now just knight f4 check, bishop e6, and right, bishop takes, king e7, and you lose your rook. You just lose your rook, you're down 2 pieces, it doesn't make sense to continue. And from this tournament, I'm also gonna show you a very nice game by Caruana, and right, he played against Maxim Shigaev, and we had just Najdorf, in which Caruana chose a rare line that is h3, ladies and gentlemen. Right here, again, it doesn't focus, but you saw that h3. I have this book, and it's very inspiring to play like this, like just h3 g4, and I think I might play this in the next tournament, and a3. So we have very wild play, attacking play by Caruana, and here all of these moves, they are pretty standard, so to say, in these variations. But now g5 kind of destabilizes the position here, just queen d2. And although black gets his own initiative and really white's attack seems to be stopped, now h4. And here, if you take the pawn, this allows f4, and here if you try to save the knight, this doesn't work because the knight is hanging there. I thought there was a b7 pawn for a second, excuse me. But if you try to save the knight, let's say like this, simply f5, and if you try to go back, simply you lose this pawn, or you win too much material. So therefore, after h4 we have bishop b7 and hg and rook h1. So now again, after the rook slides over, it seems like white's attack is kind of stopped, but now rook h5 putting more pressure on that pawn. Rook c8, rook d to h1, and now bishop f6. We have f3 and queen e7, and this move really allows an idea that Caruana, didn't play it. Caruana played king b1, but here he could have played the move knight back to b3, with the idea that after, let's say a move like bishop a8, the idea would be to go rook back to d1 and attack this pawn. But Caruana went king b1, which is obviously not a mistake, and now knight c4, forcing a trade, but this trade is actually okay for white. That bishop wasn't doing anything on e2. So you have now b3, kicking the queen away, and now a very nice sacrifice. Maybe it's not the best move, but it's very nice. So we have e takes, and now knight f5. So Caruana playing in great style, now taking a pawn. We have bishop c3, and again, black is fine. Black is fine in this position, right? If you look at the evaluation, but it's so hard to defend. Like, right, this pawn is hanging now, so you have knight e5 stopping the attack, but this doesn't work because now rook h6 attacking the queen, and now rook g6. This defense also doesn't work because now after this trade you get queen f4, and now you can see all of the threats starting to take place. Shigaev gets desperate, he sacks the knight back, and now it's simply equal material, but white just has a much better position. But how are you gonna deliver the final blow? In this position, white is completely winning, but you have to find one of these two moves, just queen a7 or queen b6, because now after queen g5 you take the bishop, and after move like rook d8 you just play a very nice move, rook to h7, and now the bishop is under attack. And if you move the bishop, let's say you go here, now it's just made in one, and if you decide to attack the queen here, you just take the pawn here with check, and you can survive for one more second, but in the end, you're either gonna lose this, or you're simply just gonna get checked and mated. So Caruana came in second, and both of them qualified. Now the next set of players to qualify are the winner and the runner-up in the FIDE Grand Prix. Now there were 24 players invited to the FIDE Grand Prix. Actually not invited, they also qualified either by placing in the top 16 in the World Cup or in the top 8 in the Chess World Cup, or you know, many various other ways to qualify by rating. But there were 3 tournaments, 2 of them held in Berlin, 1 in Belgrade, and you had to participate in 2 of those tournaments, and you earned points based on your placement. So the winner, Hikaru Nakamura. Now actually Hikaru Nakamura, he won the first leg, so like the first tournament he won that, and he earned 13 points. And now in the second leg, in the third leg actually, his second leg, in the third leg he only needed to get out of the group, but to get out of the group he had to win on demand with the black pieces, and we're gonna flip the board for that. We're gonna flip the board and we're gonna see if Hikaru can win on demand with the black pieces against a guy like Esipenko. So we have bishops opening, and here Hikaru goes after the bishop early, and we have this structure where white volunteers to have 2 double pawns, and now castles, a4, and again this follows a standard kind of bishops opening play where there's a lot of maneuvering, and what's characteristic about this position is that this pawn is a little bit weaker than it normally is. So we have, Hikaru tries to get a bishop trade, but Esipenko gets his knight into f5. We have the bishop trade that Hikaru wanted, and now he kicks the knight out and plays the moves c6 to not allow knight d5. And Hikaru slowly plays some moves, right? Some improving moves, takes on f4, and now attacks the rook, and here he takes a pawn. So Esipenko decides to sacrifice a pawn to get some initiative. So let's see that initiative. We have g4, kicking the knight out, knight back. We have now knight f5, sacrificing the knight, but you can take the knight, but this position is you cannot save the bishop because now you're in a little bit of trouble after a move like queen h6. And you're gonna have to give up one of your pieces. So this sacrifice is very justified. We have queen e5 and knight h6 now with check, right? Knight d5, another knight sacrifice. So Esipenko is really pushing forward with all that he's got. And here again, now if you take, it's still okay, right? But you've got to sacrifice the bishop. If you try to keep the bishop, now you're losing this pawn, and so you've got to be very, very careful in these positions. But Hikaru he doesn't pick up any pawns, but he makes a mistake with g5. Sorry, not any pawns, but any pieces. And now the best move maybe would have been something like rook 1 to f2, but that's very hard to see the difference. So Esipenko played queen f2, but this allows f5, and here after takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now knight to h5, we have rook e1 and queen g7, knight g4, knight f4. So now the position is again in the balance. And we have the move f6 here, and now queen d7. So right, the white attack kind of died down, and you've got to see how you can defend your knight. You cannot. You can push h3, but Esipenko decides to sacrifice the exchange because he has this very nice pawn, but Hikaru also has a very solid structure. So after rook d to e8 and avoiding the trade, here Esipenko had to go for the trade and basically, get a draw. Here, that's all that could have been achieved, a draw. But you know, Esipenko wanted a win. So he kept the rook, but now queen f7, and after king h1, this is not a position that you want to be in as white. Queen g6, and after this move, just h5, kicking out the knight, and now rook f6, and Esipenko resigned. But you know, here you know, maybe another try could have been the move c5, you know, to kind of try to destabilize. Like here, if you take, you allow knight e5, and this would have been a good try. So Esipenko had his chance with his attack, with the double knight sacrifice. He played a very awesome game, but in the end, he just played some bad moves, and he lost. Now Rapport was the runner-up, and the thing is, Hikaru got 23 Grand Prix points, so he won, and then he lost in the finals to Wesley So. But Wesley So already lost one time in the group, so he had no chance to qualify. But Rapport, he won, and he won once, and then the other one he lost in the semifinals, so he got 20 rapid points, and that was enough to qualify. So I'm gonna show you the game against Andreikin, and he actually won a very nice game, also using a little bit of psychology, just like me. And so we have a Queen's Gambit decline, and here, right here, we have a very interesting deviation. Now we have the move knight f4, and here the thing is, you don't really want to take this bishop, because now your knight is forced back, and here you just lose a pawn. Or you could not lose a pawn, but your position is gonna get very bad. Sorry, not queen a5 check. I thought queen a5 for a minute, but then just b5. No, queen h5 here. You attack the knight and you threaten the bishop, and you lose, because you pick this up, you go queen e5 check. Okay, so we have knight f4, and now bishop takes on d4. We have knight takes on d4, queen takes, and bishop d6. So here, basically, after we get through the opening phase, now Rapport decides to take it, and we have this structure again, opposite color bishop's middle game, and we have the move bishop h3. So the first game that I played, the Grand Prix is also the format, just like the World Cup. You play first classical, then rapid, and then blitz. So this is the second classical game, and here Andreikin needs a draw to just to make it to the playoffs, the rapid playoffs. So b4, nice attacking move by Rapport, and queen a4. So Rapport is really trying to win this game now. Knight f4, bishop f4, e takes f4. So you have this imbalance with the knight for the bishop, and here you really had to take the knight, because otherwise, you would allow some checks here or some checks here. So queen c6 and queen e3. The position is very much in the balance, and after a move like knight f4, f3, here the players, right, kind of decided to go for a little bit of a repetition, and here if you Rapport, if he decided to go back, it would have been a draw. But with under 2 minutes on the clock, he decides to go queen e5, declining the draw and allowing knight d2, and playing f5 and allowing knight, oops, I spoiled a little bit, allowing knight takes on f1. Again, I pressed the wrong arrow. But here, f takes on e6, and it's still a draw after the move king e7. And here the line, goes as follows, queen f8 check it was, and then if you play something like e7, now you get a perpetual check here, and this check, and now you get a perpetual check. So you cannot escape perpetual check. But the way that Andreikin did it, he played king e8, but now in the same line you don't have perpetual check anymore, because right here you can block with the queen. So yes, so after this check, right after you go here, now if you check here, the king is gonna go up, and then now you're gonna be able to block with the queen. So we have here queen f1, a joke by Andreikin, and he congratulated his opponent for winning. So now we go to the last player to qualify. That was Ding Liren. He was the replacement for Sergei Karyakin, and the thing is with him that you had to play, you had to have the highest rating in May, I think, and you had to play 30 games, 30 classical games. And so Ding Liren had played like 4 games up until that point, and the Chinese Federation organized a lot of tournaments to get him to play 26 games in a month, and he actually won most of them because he's very good. So this is a game that he played against Li Di, and he decided to go for this c4 e4 structure, and just a very tame and symmetrical structure. And he decided to just outplay his opponent. And so now we have some moves. Bishop maneuvers to c2, now defending and probably going for a d4 push in the future. King h2, and now the knight gets there, and the pawn is attacked, but the pawn is defended, and the knight goes back. So very interesting line here. Queen gets attacked, queen gets booted back, now g4. And now you take the pawn on f4, sacrificing the knight here, and now just playing the move d5. So Li Di sacked the knight, and is now got a pawn for it, but now played the move d5. But the position is again in the balance, because although you can save your knight, now you take the pawn, and here the thing is, you can in fact play d3, but Li Di maybe didn't like the fact that after bishop d1 maybe there's nothing concrete. So he went for rook a to b8, and now the move f4, and Ding Liren is actually on the back foot here. Li Di plays d3, and here Ding makes a massive mistake going e5. Here queen b6 played by Li Di, but a better try would have been maybe a move like queen to h4, kind of putting pressure on this pawn. But okay, Li Di goes for this queen b6 line. We have bishop d1, and now bishop c5, putting pressure again on the knight. And keep in mind, Li Di is down a piece, so if he doesn't do anything immediately and allows Ding to kind of settle and find the right optimization for the knights and for the pieces, Li Di might be in a little bit of trouble. So quick rewind. d2, and Ding decides to give up the rook. Again, spoil the result twice. Man, I shouldn't be pressing those arrows. And here we have bishop b3, and simply the queen has to defend. But now Li Di gives up the bishop, and the funny thing about this position is that your queen is hanging, and so you're gonna have to give up the rook back. But you don't want to take the rook, because now you're losing the bishop, and here you're losing the game because this pawn is too advanced. So here you want to take the bishop, and now you don't really want to take the rook because you allow a queen. So here you play rook d1, but now you're much better, because after the queen trade, here apparently queen d3 was much better because you're just threatening to win the pawn, and after a move like queen b4, now you can just play a move like queen g3 and threaten mate. So Ding decides to take, but now Li Di is back again winning with the move rook to d8. He just had to defend, and here he would have been winning, and a move like knight d6 can be tried, but now b5. And you're gonna see that Li Di went for this idea, but it was only a little bit too late when he did it. Yeah, so now b5 doesn't work because a takes b5 and you get your pawn here, and a3, and now here again rook f1, maybe not the best move here, rook b3 check, and now king g2. I think this is the evaluation bar, it doesn't work because white is winning. We have rook takes on g6, and now a2, and simply after knight c8 Li Di resigned as it's forced mate in 3. Here right, Li Di was lost because the pawn cannot get in time. King g3, it was kind of weird because the engine was not refreshed. I'm sorry about that. So you know, Ding Liren survives a very nice attack by Li Di, and you know, wins his game, but he just had to play games and not lose a lot of rating points. So coming back to our list, that's how all of them made it, and I know this video was a little bit on the longer side, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Kowalski out.